Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to the very first interview of my medical medium community interview project. Oops, sorry, my cat is trying to drink my celery juice. Little quick announcement of what this project is exactly. I just decided to do this interview project because I feel like there's so many people in the medical medium community. We have tons of groups and we're all in there talking, but we don't have any extra connection, with video, with seeing our faces, things like that. It's mostly just text. And I really wanted to bring us together because we can feel isolated really easily, especially when we're the only ones in our household doing this, or the only one in our friend group. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is there are a lot of amazing healing stories, and I think those are important and need to be spotlighted a lot more than they are, because especially people coming in new, they're not sure. It's a lot of work. They want to know, they want to hear everybody else's story. So there's a lot of us that have these beautiful healing stories. And then a lot of people in the community that have amazing offers. Maybe they're health coaches. They could be people who make clean products like soaps. There's somebody who makes cutting boards here. Everybody knows Joshua. And then there's people who have events, stuff like that. And I wanted to have a place for all of us to talk about what these offers are, so that the people offering things can have some views and being noticed. And then so people in the community can also see this beautiful, huge array of possibilities for vacations and help, support, anything like that. So that is the purpose of these interviews. So my name is Nyisha Rylander. I'm sure you've seen me around in these groups. I am a certified health and nutrition coach, specializing, of course, in medical medium protocols. I'm also a functional movement coach and yoga instructor. And in that container, I focus on some somatics and helping people, especially who are dealing with chronic issues, connect their mind and their body and their souls, because a lot of times I think that's that last piece that people aren't doing in their healing journeys. I'm seeing it a ton in these groups. And I think that's a really important part of our healing protocol that we don't talk about often enough. So that's my specialty. And I have a couple of really exciting things coming up in the works. I'm not going to quite mention it yet because I have to get a little bit further down the road with those, but stay tuned for that. Anyway, so that's me. And then today we have Cathy. Today we're interviewing her. We're going to talk to her about her healing journey with spasmodic dysphonia. She also has an upcoming masterclass that you definitely don't want to miss. Cathy and I will link our socials, our websites, any information if you are interested in hearing more about either one of us. And so that's that. Let's dive in. On to Cathy. Here she is.
Hi,
Cathy.
Nyisha. Thank you so much for having me on this interview. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Me too.
This is going to be
So,
awesome. So you were
yeah,
mentioning about,
and
my
this is our first interview, so for both of us, my first time interviewing.
yes.
Anyway, I don't know if it's maybe your first time being interviewed, so here we are. But let's.
Well, I was actually with Kirsten Ranstrom on her Quest for Healing podcast. So I have
Nice.
one other interview.
I have heard her podcast. I don't know if I heard yours on there, but I'm gonna have to go back and look for that.
Yeah.
We'll link her podcast below in the notes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an awesome tool. Like I highly recommend that podcast for anybody who's on a healing journey, because it can just give you that mental, we feed our bodies with food, but we need to feed our minds at the same time. Because what you were talking about earlier about linking the, mind, body, spirit is so important. And I don't know about you, but of course, when I first started my journey, I focused on food and supplements and stuff like that more so than the other stuff. Now, in my defense, I guess I should tell you a little bit more about what I had going on. So, in 2018, my health went off a cliff, basically. So, we had sort of a traumatic experience in our family which escalated some other symptoms that were kind of brewing, but I wasn't full blown with them yet. So basically, you know, trauma then enters this avalanche of neurological problems that happened basically overnight for me. One of them is that was the most heart wrenching for me was spasmodic dysphonia, which is a basic neurological thing that happens that makes your voice not be able to communicate with your brain. So basically, it can present in a few different ways. Some people have more of a broken speech. Some people, like for me, I just sounded very strangled and like I couldn't really get any volume, and it wound up be sitting in a very higher part of my voice. So, that was devastating for me because I had spent over 30 years as an entertainer. And so everything kind of got ripped out from under me at the same time. So, obviously I couldn't entertain anymore. I couldn't even talk, let alone sing. And that all happened. I was laden with about 30 symptoms that came on like a ton of bricks. Like I had a constant spasm from my right eye down to my right hip, muscle weakness on that side of my body, like a little slight droop on my face, on that side. I, had intense anxiety, of course, and horrible insomnia, sensitivity to hot, cold, light and sound. I had constant thirst, dry mouth, dry eyes, blurry vision. Um, anyway, I could probably, and then of course you add in the digestive problems and the allergies that I had been dealing with for years and years, and the fatigue, which also was sort of something I was in denial about a lot of these symptoms. I was just in that mindset of I'm a human doing, not a human being, and I've got to like prove my worth every day by how much I get done or hitting all the marks and that sort of thing. And so I realize now that, a lot of this stuff was brewing for a long time, but I just was in denial about it. And I just was like putting a band-aid on it. I was taking a ton of over-the-counter medications. I was taking hormone replacement therapy for my menopausal type symptoms. I was just, doing anything to mask it so that I could just carry on with my normal life. Well, wouldn't you know, I hit an avalanche of a screeching halt. And so everything came to a standstill, which of course has its gifts because of the fact that it all came on at once. It really was a special thing for me, especially because specifically talking about that voice disorder, that was the biggest pain point for me because of the fact that I could no longer talk to people. I felt very isolated. It just gets me a little emotional talking about it. It was just very isolating, and I just felt like a former shadow of myself because I couldn't even express myself. I'm chatty Cathy. I've always been a very outgoing people person and just, bup, 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 bup. And I felt like a zombie because I had to pick and choose my words because people couldn't understand or hear me. And so I had to fight to get those words out. And so it was an agonizing time. And so of course, my heart is full of love and compassion for anyone who is dealing with that symptom. And so this masterclass that I have been putting together has been 3 years in the making because I actually started getting my voice back in 2021 on Easter Sunday, which again gets me a little emotional too because I feel like it was my personal rising after a very difficult time. Sorry, I don't mean to be
Hey,
emotional.
that's okay. That's okay.
But anyway, so my mission is to help people who are suffering with this because it is a life-changing thing. It is as debilitating as if you were, unable to walk again or, any of the things that we do in our normal life, um, to not be able to do those things anymore. It's pretty devastating. So So through the beauty and the gifts of the illness, I was able to heal my spasmodic dysphonia along with all of the other neurological problems. Um, uh, and it was through the grace of them all coming together that helped me do that, because Anthony William does not write about spasmodic dysphonia in his books at all. Um, Trust me, I've read them all and I scoured every book for anything about voice. And he mentions it like a couple of times in relating to adrenal fatigue, um, a voice weakness or hoarseness is what he calls it, but not like complete dysfunction of the voice. So that's the thing about it that is pretty special, because now I don't, obviously, if I was just trying to heal my voice, I would have picked up the book and gone, oh, he doesn't say anything about it, so this is not the book for me. The fact that I had so many symptoms gave me plenty to work on. And as I understood instinctively from the moment that I found this medical medium information, I knew it resonated with me on such a deep level that it was, and in the minute I started implementing it, I could feel the deep healing happening. Although my voice was 2.5 years into my journey that I finally healed that. So I stuck with it all that time, even though I had not yet found the healing. But I just knew inside myself that it was going to work. And it's funny because, I'm sure we all experience this, especially if you've been on this journey. People who don't understand what we're doing might be like, oh, well, go try something else. This is not working, obviously. You need to be working on something else. And I was always like, I'm going to give this at least a couple of years to just see what happens, and not confuse it by adding in a ton of other like nutritional advice. Now, I did add in nervous system regulation and the things like your mind. I got way into mindset, um, like studies, and I took some courses like Tony Robbins and Mandy Morris and those type of things that helped me like ingrain my ability to stay tough through this healing journey, because it's your mental toughness kind of is going to be the dictating force that helps us then follow through with the celery juice, the smoothie, staying away from the troublemaker foods. All of that stuff happens as a result of who we perceive ourselves to be. Who do I at a core identity see myself as? Am I someone who can stick with a program? Prior to doing this medical medium healing journey, I was a little, flighty about my dietary dabblings. Um, I was keto. Now I did do keto before I did medical medium. I did keto for like a year and a half. And then, of course, we all see where that got me. It did not serve me well. And, of course, Anthony William talks about it just burdening the liver so much. And I was like poster child for that, because of the fact that all of my neurological symptoms got so amped up, as a result, a combination that, vagus nerve and trauma are also big factors in all of that, anything neurological. So I had to learn to calm my nervous system down. I know you're probably like, that's a big focus in your practice as well, as as a yoga instructor and like someone who like is deeply aware of all of the implications of your energy, basically as a spirit, your spirit energy, how it manifests in our physical body. So, yeah, so, learning those, kind of tools to, just the workarounds, because my nervous system was so out of whack. I was basically stuck in a state of fight or flight or freeze. Basically, that feeling when you're in a dream where you're in danger and you can't scream or you can't move. That's how I kind of felt because I was unable to express myself with my voice. So I was in that constant state of fight, flight, or freeze. And so learning to like use tools like tapping, I don't know if you've ever done that, but and just, box breaths and trying to get out into nature as much as possible, earthing, putting your bare feet on the ground, all of those things are so important. And they're this sort of like behind the scenes things that we don't really emphasize too much because we're so focused on the no foods and the smoothie and the supplements and the this, that, and the other thing. But these are just like super simple things that we can do every day, to just let Mother Earth just bring us back down to the frequency that our healing happens in.
Yeah.
I didn't realize all of that in the beginning, of course.
Yeah,
Did
of
you have a
course.
similar experience?
Of course. And I was just thinking, I wanted to jump in and say, how medical medium Anthony says death by 1,000 cuts. Well, it goes the other way too. And it's healing by 1,000 tools. And
Mhm.
it's not just the food. So when you first start, and that's why I think, anyways, why he focuses so much on the food and and then the supplements being a secondary, because it is the most important part. But then once you have that down, sometimes, especially when there's nervous system and things happening, we need these other tools as well. And so that might be 800 healing tools, but then there's the other couple hundred that include these things you're talking about and the healing of the nervous system things that you need that extra bit to kind of push you over that finish line. It's like when you're on a diet and you're trying to lose that last 10 pounds. That's what gets you past that point. And
Yep.
I think it's really important. And I think people, you hear these people in these groups. I see occasionally people, I've been, at this for 5 years and I still have this and that going on. And I think a lot of time, well, it's one of two things. It's one, maybe they're not being completely honest with how much they're sticking to it. Or number two, there's all these other elements of what's going on. Because and this, when you are in that state of chronic illness, you have to disconnect your soul from your body a little bit because your soul's going through too much trauma. So it's sort of lingering near you. And I think now that you've kind of healed and centered yourself a little bit, you need to kind of invite your soul back in. And those kind of actions, I think, is what invites the soul back in. And that has a big part of the healing of the nervous system because our nervous system is how the soul is connected. So
Mhm.
healing the nervous system, healing the soul, it's two sides of the same coin, right? And they go together. And you
Yep.
can focus on one or the other, but they both happen at the same time. And I think that's that missing piece that a lot of people end up kind of looking over once they get too clouded in the protocols a little bit.
Exactly. And
But
I don't know about you, but, like, also when I first started, I was in a little bit in that perfectionist mindset and, like, really stressed out about making sure I did everything perfectly and that I didn't miss anything, so I was, like, doing a lot of
every
protocol.
little detail, like the smoothie has to be made exactly the way it is,
Yeah.
or different things, and that's true. And I was just texting back and forth with somebody in my Vibrant group. I think it was Sheila about which juicer to have and how you have to clean it and the kitchen, blah blah blah. And I was telling her in the group, I call my kitchen a working kitchen. So it's never going to be spotless.
Right.
My juicer is going to have, stuff on it and maybe my
Same
salad.
here. Oh my gosh, I'm the
And I don't have
same.
the ingredient for this. And it's just like, whatever, just get it done and move on to the next thing and get out of the kitchen and do other stuff with your life. Because
Yep.
it can be really all consuming, which I think at first is good, but you don't want to live in just that little bubble forever. And I think that another thing about people feeling isolated that contributes to it because that
Mhm.
perfectionism mindset of
Yep.
thinking I have to have it exactly perfect or I'm not going to heal or it's not
Uh,
going to work. And that's
ex
just not the way it is. I think that's
totally.
important for people to understand. Yes.
I agree.
So
Well,
let's get into your masterclass. Let's
oh, yeah.
share with people how they can tune into the masterclass, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have a link I can attach to this that is a sign up for the masterclass. So I'm doing 3 different offerings. I've got one Friday the 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and then Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Just trying to kind of cover the bases on the time zone differences because a lot of people from around the world suffer with spasmodic dysphonia. And so I just wanted to make sure that I had enough a bit, opportunity for each one of them to come in. And we're going to, delve in. It's going to be a 2-hour long class with basically, I'm just going to spill my guts and then just tell you everything I learned along my way. In a nutshell, I mean, as much as you can in 2 hours. But we're going to deal with, rewiring the brain. Going to take you through an exercise to learn to start to do that. We're going to, of course, dive into the nutrition portion. We have to cover that. But also, we're going to talk about nervous system regulation, some of the things I just mentioned. We're going to also discuss how to start to manage our emotions and our energy, and how our chi, our energy basically is going to dictate the amount of healing that we can do on any given day. It's like your battery has to be charged fully in order to fully you let your immune system boot up, let everything kind of get back into sync, because oftentimes we have blocked energies, and we have like our flow of energy throughout our body is blocked, and it's not happening on an efficient way. So we have to look at ways that we can unblock that, so that we can get it running in a circuit again, so that it replenishes itself too. When those circuits are blocked, our energy gets like kind of it's not reutilized. It becomes this broken circuit where it's just rushing out of us and not returning back into us, which is depleting. And then there's no sustaining our full potential when that's the case. So
Yeah.
so that is, it's just my passion, and I'm just so excited to share it with anybody who has suffered with spasmodic dysphonia. Everything that I'm going to say, and Nyisha, you and I were talking about this before we got on today, but everything that I'm going to say about spasmodic dysphonia and healing it also applies to any other condition that you have a neurological issue with. So if you have anxiety, you have migraines, you have any sort of neuropathy or chronic pain in your body, all of the same stuff would apply to you. So even if you have some time over the weekend and you just want to come tune in, you don't have spasmodic dysphonia per se, but you have vertigo and you have, some other neurological weirdness, please come, because like all of that I'm going to talk about applies to everything. So that would be awesome to have more folks in the class for sure.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, I was going to mention that just in case you don't have that, any kind of neurological issue, a lot of this stuff, once you heal one thing, everything kind of goes with it. So definitely tune in. I'm going to tune in for sure. And another thing about it, even if you don't have neurological to tune in, is to listen to Cathy's healing story, because it's going to give you and your soul support, knowing that, she can do it, you can do it too. And just that encouragement is very, very helpful. So even if you tune in just for that part of it, I think it would be really helpful. Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Thank you so much. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that we are looking for clues. Our brains, we have this thing called the reticular activating system in our brains, which is basically the filter of our brain that decides what we're going to focus on. Because honestly, there's everything coming at you at once. And if we took in everything that is in our environment all the time, it would be overwhelming and we couldn't function. So this RAS, reticular activating system, weeds out the stuff that we don't want and brings in what we're intending to see. So, for instance, I want you guys to we could do a little fun little game. So look around your room and see, we're looking for everything that is brown in color. You look around, you notice all the things that are brown. Now, what if I asked you, what are the red things in your room? You weren't looking for those. So you're like, oh, you didn't tell me to look for those. So we have to retrain that part of our brain to look for the clues that we are healing, not, dwell on the symptoms. Like, so, the healing journey is all over the place, and it's not a linear upward trajectory. It's like, you're up there today and then you're down, and you're up and down and up and down. And we can get a little bogged down with all of that, because then we're like, oh, I'm not healing. And you get into this fear spiral of like, oh, my symptom came back. Oh my gosh. Instead of like going, no, I had a great day yesterday. Let's focus on that,
Exactly. And even when you are healed, I mean, even perfectly healthy people have ups days and down days anyways. That's just the way it
Yes,
is. I
absolutely.
love
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
important. And yeah, just kind of, you live, your reality becomes what you focus on. And so if you focus on, the things that aren't right or aren't perfect, or things that you're not feeling well perfectly, that's kind of what you're maybe more paying attention to. So that's a great way to look at it. Is just, it's mindset. Yeah, it's mindset, and getting into the actual physical part of the mindset, like we were saying with the brain. There is a physical side to a lot of this more woo-woo stuff that we're talking about. There's woo-woo, but then there is really the physical side too as well.
absolutely. Where
Yep.
attention goes, energy flows.
Exactly. I was trying to think of that. That's exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking.
Yep.
That's very true. Very true. Well, awesome, Cathy. I'm so happy to hear that you're going to be doing that masterclass. I'm definitely going to be tuning in to, I'm not sure which day I'm going to pick yet because I have to look at
Okay.
the time availabilities. But we
Love
will
it.
be linking everything, you guys, in the comments below. And so definitely check out Cathy and her masterclass. And we will be coming on again for another interview. I'm not exactly sure when, but we will. So keep a lookout for that. Thank you so much
Amazing.
for tuning in. Thank you, Cathy, for being here.
Thanks, Nyisha. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.